Hey, what's up, metal and heavy music fans? It's Flight of Icarus again with MetalTrenches.com, and today we're doing a review of Carnal Abhorrence and their new album, The Crowned Apocalypse, via Reality Fade Records. And hey, if you like to be kept up to date with the best and brightest metal bands and albums from the underground and above, then stick with me by hitting that subscribe button down below. Carnal Abhorrence is a two-piece brutal technical death metal band formed in 2017, and despite being a relatively new act, they have been keeping busy already, dropping their debut album Gormandizing Rupture in 2019, and now quickly following that up with this new sophomore effort. What caught my attention the most about the Crowned Apocalypse is how adeptly it balances the usual tropes of brutal tech death with a solid through-line of melodic hooks and grooves. As a result, Carnal Abhorrence managed to overcome the monotony I tend to associate with albums that do the basic guttural vocals for the entire duration. There's only a handful of acts I can think of pulling this off, with Wormed always rising to the top of that list, but tracks like Encased In Disgrace are the perfect example of how to make it work. This track also features a guest appearance from Mann of Rings of Saturn. Again, straight up indecipherable brutality on the vocals, but with the perfect counterpoint of varied, catchy guitar leads to carry things along in an engaging manner. It's also a pretty dynamic track with progressive elements and a ripping solo that reminded me of other groups like Alkaloid and Obscura, and that bass riff gets me so freaking amped every time. The Unholy Infinity is another major standout track for similar reasons, but this one also incorporating some gorgeous synth arrangements from Australian musician Misstiq. Once again, these highly atmospheric, kind of Born of Osiris-y backing elements alongside the Within the Ruins meets Inferi guitar riffs elevate what might otherwise be a more generic composition to something truly captivating, treating the vocals more like just another instrument as opposed to the central focus. Those two tracks alone provide a pretty nice summary of what to expect from this album as a whole, but naming just two more favorites, I really enjoyed closing track Necrotic Rebirth and This Sinister Fuel. I didn't even initially notice that a large portion of the former is instrumental, and that's just another testament to how effective the other performances are on this album. If I do have a criticism of the album, it's that there are a few tracks that still feel a little on the generic side of slam and brutal death metal. I know some people like that style a lot more than I do, but frankly, I feel like the original playbook has been done to death, no pun intended. And I would definitely appreciate the band leaning hard into the more melodic elements. Thankfully, at just 33 minutes, this album is a pretty tight listen, and the less interesting moments never stick around long enough to really take me out of it. Turning to my scales, I give The Crowned Apocalypse a 9 for enjoyability. Again, this is a very concise album that overall had me banging my head with just a few bumps in the road that kept it from a perfect score in this area. I give it a 9 for musicianship. There are some pretty impressive performances on display here from all band members, and the songwriting is generally quite solid and engaging. They don't reach the same mindfuckery as the aforementioned Wormed, but good stuff nonetheless. And I give it a 7 for innovation. Even when Carnal Abhorrence are at the top of their game, they still never really carve out a particular niche for themselves. You may have noticed that I name-dropped quite a few other bands during this review, and sometimes that's a sign that the music doesn't exactly stand out from the pack. I can think of a billion other bands doing this type of music in a pretty similar vein, so my biggest piece of advice for Carnal Abhorrence is to continue to play with the elements that will really help them make their mark. So an 8.3 overall and a straight B for Carnal Abhorrence and The Crowned Apocalypse. Get it once more via Reality Fade Records. Y'all, thanks as always for watching. I know this is a bit shorter than my usual reviews, but I thought I'd test out the format as a way to still share this album, so let me know what you think down in the comments, as well as your favorite technical death metal album of 2020. And also stick around because I got plenty more reviews, tier lists, and interviews with bands on the podcast for you to check out right after this one, but that'll do it for now. Flight of Icarus signing off. I will see you in the trenches.